Hey guys, welcome to the next episode of the 1976 TR6 in the Rusty Beauties garage, and we're gonna continue today with assembling the engine after we did the timing last time. I was gonna ask for help, but I decided to spare the headache.
I thought it was going to be timing today, so I came to give you a hand. I know you always struggle with it, so.
I know. So that's why we spared him the headaches
Thank
and
God.
we did the timing without him. But now he's gonna help us today. You're on vacation or something?
Yeah, starting vacation.
Wow.
For first day of vacation at the Rusty Beauty shop.
Yeah. So since David is on vacation, he came to help a little bit today. So without further ado, let's get crack-a-lacking.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, so David is installing the new oil pump, and maybe he can install also our rear seal so we can put the cover on the oil sump after that. I'm gonna start taking apart this rocker. Oh, he actually brought me some Christmas gifts.
I got tired of seeing him with the broken one in the last couple
What's
of videos.
wrong with mine? What's wrong with mine?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. Okay, thank you. And another light.
Yeah, those are
Along
good.
that.
Quite like those.
So, depending how long he's gonna be here, we have some other stuff for him eventually, or we can do that later. But I think I'm gonna start taking the rocker shaft apart because we want to replace the shaft. We have a new shaft waiting here. So these are notorious for being seized on the shaft, the pedestals I mean. And the rockers should come out easy, but the problem is the pedestals. But I have a way. I'll show you how we're gonna do that. First of all, we wanna memorize the configuration here because we have some spacers on some of them. And if you can see here on the inner pedestals, we have spacers on the inside here and here. On the next two pedestals, we have spacers on the outside here and here. And on these, we have a spring spacer on outside here. We also have this screw that holds the shaft in the correct orientation, but we're gonna talk about that later. So let me start taking it apart. Okay, well, it was bad, but believe me, I had worse. I had even badder before. And this is the reason why we are changing this shaft, because
Lots of grooves.
lots of grooves.
It's groovy.
It's a groovy kind of love. Like in everyone, I don't know why, but in everyone there's grooves, nail catchers. But again, I've seen much worse actually. So how oil travels to the rockers is through this hole. Where is the hole? Here. So on the rearmost pedestal, there's a hole that matches the hole in the head, goes through the pedestal and delivers oil to here inside. So this oil gallery needs to match this hole on the shaft. And to locate it precisely, we have this threaded hole on the opposite side where the screw goes, and that locks it in place. And from there, from this hole, the shaft is hollow inside, and the oil travels through it, and for under every rocker there's a little hole that delivers oil to it. So that's why this screw is so important, because if we lose it and the shaft turns a little bit, now the oil delivery is going to be interrupted and nothing is going to happen. But you can imagine the rearmost rockers get the most oil, but the farther forward you go, the less oil gets delivered. So
It gets starved.
yeah, the front ones are starving usually. Even though I've seen the rear one not being very well oiled. Anyways, we have a new one, so I'm gonna go and clean all these parts and we're gonna prep the pedestals. I'm just gonna run a piece of sandpaper inside to smoothen the bore a little bit, because I'm sure on the new shaft we're gonna have trouble installing them. And then we're gonna take care of the rockers themselves, because I remember there were some that needed some refacing. Meanwhile, David installed the oil pump already and he's working on the front cover now. Did you change the seal already?
Yeah.
And now you're changing my... Oops, sorry. I messed up something. And that's the new one?
Yep.
Yeah, the old
Pretty
one
groovy.
is
Yeah.
pretty
And
groovy too.
also pretty groovy, yeah.
Well, our chef is moving so fast here that I can't keep up filming him. So apparently he has already the rear seal installed here and the screws are started, just he needs to tighten them now. And he reminded me that down here or up there, the one in the top, this screw has a copper washer on it because it is a through hole. It ends up inside the crankcase. Everything else is regular screws with lock washers. And same goes here. There are a few holes on the front that are through, so we're gonna get there later.
Yep.
How come you're not working on the TR3 today?
I needed a break from the TR3. You'll see my video coming out. I've been in the basement for the last 3 days, so I figured out I'd come out and see the light.
Can't wait to see what parts you have for me.
Yeah.
All right. He even cleaned these for me a little bit while I was changing the seal on the seal housing. I changed the seal for him. He came and he wiped these for me. I washed them, he wiped them and put them in order. So
No, they're not in order.
okay.
Unless you put them in order.
And he arranged them somehow. I went to clean up the sides only on the wire wheel. I wanted to clean them up a little bit, but I went a little bit too far with these. I cleaned them up completely. So now I just put these in my pocket because I'm going to the wire wheel to clean these as well. And then we're gonna come back and start assembling. Okay, next David is installing the oil pan. So he has the oil pump and the rear seal now. So the oil pan can go in, and here we need to be aware about few holes that are through and go inside. So this one is inside the oil pan, and this one is inside the oil pan, inside the oil, what's it called?
Crankcase?
In the crankcase.
Yeah.
And these, if you remember, we were talking about length here, but I don't think lengthwise we should be worried too much. Most of the outer holes just go through and go outside, so lengthwise there are few locations. Yeah, you see this one, only this one is very short. Everything else is pretty good. So where are my screws?
Probably in a bag somewhere labeled.
Yeah, in your basement. So here, when we took it out, all of them had washers, but there are no washers. We have only lock washers here. So I'm gonna prepare them for David. So we have a short one here, like this one, and then we can have a little bit longer everywhere else.
Well, you're trying to get a Triumph with no leaks?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yep. So we want to put the longer bolts on this side. Here we said we have a short one, like really short.
Mhm.
Here we have a little bit longer we can use, and then we have 5 that are pretty long for anywhere else, but they can fit on this side, because there the
They go
shape of the block is in such way that they, even
through.
though they go through, they still can hit the block on the outside. On this side you can use the longer bolt. So here only, where we said it's a blind hole, we're gonna use one of the shorter ones.
Are these over here?
And these go there, yeah. Why can't I start it? Oh, okay.
Wrong hand, maybe?
Yeah. Like they came like that. I mean, a little bit random bolts here. Normally they should be all, I believe, 3/4. These are like an inch. So that's why we're putting these here. The rest are all the same, the 3/4 ones. Even the ones in the rear seal. Now we're gonna look up the torque, because I want to torque this for real. For the other ones we were joking, but these I want to torque them as much as it is allowed.
Okay, I'm going to bring them down just with the impact, but just
Yeah.
snug.
Okay, so apparently 20 is the allowed torque here, except if you have the
aluminum sealing block?
The aluminum sealing block. I don't recommend that, even though it doesn't say it in the menu. I would say 14, just like in the trailing arms. And same for the rear seal. These 2 bolts go in the rear seal. So these for sure we need to torque to maximum 14 on this particular engine. But the front ones, because we changed the sealing block with the steel one, we can go up to 20. Okay, let's see how fast David can do that.
Yeah, if you give me a torque wrench.
I'm gonna give you a torque wrench, and I'm gonna...
Set me the 14 first, please.
Okay, while David is torquing that, we're gonna come here and we're gonna continue with our rocker shaft assembling. So we're gonna start by cleaning up a little bit the bore of the pedestals. I don't know why they always get so sticky. Like, look, it's so hard. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna clamp it here on the vise. We're gonna take some sandpaper, 240, that's fine. We're gonna roll it and we're gonna run it inside a little bit. Just a little bit to clean it. What we can do actually is, and I've done that before, let's do it again. We can chuck that into a drill. Yeah, still tight. Okay, but yeah, that's the idea. I'm gonna play with it for a while to make sure that they all fit nicely.
Did you blow the new?
You don't show your face on your videos, I'm gonna show it on mine. Okay, I'm not sure if we filmed that. We just spent 5 minutes filming something, but anyway.
We had a nice chat though.
Yeah, so we can do that again. Okay, so there are a few threaded holes here that are true. They go into the oil galleries inside. So we put thread sealer on those. Depth-wise, most of them are okay, except this one here needs to be a little bit shorter. And the ones on the plate here need to be the cheese-headed ones and short, because the threads on the plate are very limited. There's like 2-3 threads, so we don't want to strip those. That's why they are driven with a screwdriver instead of a wrench, so you don't have torque. We have the oil thrower, which is with the dished part outside, and then we have the sleeve, which is gonna go after the after when we have the cover on. So for now we're gonna keep it off because it's gonna be easier to put the tensioner without it. And that's it. Now David is putting gasket maker. The cover is renewed. David put new seal and new tensioner. So it's ready to go. Alright, so the pedestals are pretty clean now and go relatively easy on the shaft. So now we're gonna take the rockers and we're gonna clean them one by one. I mean, I'm gonna clean these holes here. This is where oil seeps through from the inside out and it just floats outside of the rockers. And we need to make sure that the holes are clean. This is a kit for cleaning paint guns, you know. Somebody asked me in one of the previous videos where I got these brushes. It's just paint gun cleaning kit.
How come you gave me so many screws?
To have extras.
Yeah. I see extra stuff, I get worried.
They put way too much.
It's always good to have something left over, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you don't have leftovers, then you didn't have enough. Okay. And now we're gonna take a look at all the faces here. Like, they're not too bad. I mean, some of them have a little nail catcher. This doesn't even, maybe it has a little bit. So we're gonna sand them very gently, but some of them have a little bit more than that. Let me find one that was not great. Actually, I'm gonna flip them upside down now so I can see. Oh, actually, that might have been the worst one. Yeah, the other ones are not too bad. Yeah, actually, they're not horrible. So maybe this one is like the worst. So let me show you what we're gonna do with those. So we're gonna take a, I don't know, this is like a ceramic tile that I found somewhere. Like it's a floor tile or I don't know what it is. Some WD-40, and I'm gonna put it at the edge of the table so we can do this. We can go all the way because this surface is round, and we're gonna go like that. It's good if we can do this, but that's gonna take forever. That's much better, but I know that's gonna take forever, so we're gonna do this in random shapes, trying to keep it straight. This is like 1000 grit sandpaper. 1000 or 870, I don't know what it is.
1000.
Well, what's the 870 here?
That's the part number S870, but it says 1000 on the side, right?
Okay, whatever grit that is. And it won't take so much material at a time, so I don't think we can change the angle here. Like, for such a small amount, it's okay, but if it is more than that, it's not recommended. You can do it with special equipment on a bench grinder or on a special grinder where it follows the same curve, but for this little amount, it is perfectly fine to do it by hand. And you see we're already almost there. Needs a little bit more. That was literally 2 minutes. Alright, so David has the cover installed and there's not much left here without the head, which is still in the machine shop. So he's gonna finish assembling some stuff on this side, which is this plug here. And I just figured out that I made a mistake, not made a mistake, but when I was explaining about the oil gallery plugs, I had one big size left over, which I thought was for the front of the oil gallery. No, that's the plug for here. So David is gonna install it here with 8 millimeters. And then there's this oil pressure relief valve, which has a spring inside. And this spring I measured before, and it was a little bit too short, the old one. It needs to be 4 centimeters, and it is like 2 millimeters shorter, the old one. That's why I bought a new one, just in case. And it has this plunger here, and it goes at the bottom hole. Okay, one is ready. So it took on and off because I was going back and forth, but it probably altogether took like literally 3, 4, 5 minutes maximum of polishing, and it is perfect now. So I'm gonna go and do the other 11, and I think after that we're gonna be ready to start assembling it. Alright guys, I don't know if I mentioned, but I have new wireless microphone, which I'm still getting used to, and sometimes things like this happen in this clip and a few more after that. The microphone was not linked to the receiver, so I ended up with few silent videos. So I'm just gonna do a little bit of voiceover here, and I'm gonna explain what I was doing. First of all, I arranged all the parts on the table to make sure that I have them in the right order, and once I start assembling them on the shaft, I don't need to think about it. Second, I blew through all the holes on the shaft to make sure the oil gallery inside is clean and all the little holes under the rockers are open and oil is gonna get delivered. Then I assembled the first rocker with the pedestal and the little spring next to it, and then I was able to clamp this on the vise, and the rest was just sliding the rest of the parts in. At the end I put the last pedestal and a split pin to hold everything together, and of course I went through everything one more time to make sure that all the rockers are in the right orientation. There's left and right, you know, odd and even rockers. They need to both kind of point towards the center of the cylinder that they are dedicated to, and made sure that all the spacers are in the right side of the rockers, and that's it. The rocker shaft is assembled and only needs the head to come back from the machine shop so we can put them together. And that was it. Now we can move to something else. Alright, I figured there's one more thing that we can do here. I mean, David installed everything that could be installed. He went home actually. It's his nap time. So he helped a lot, which is appreciated. But now, I think there's one more thing that we can do, and that's the end float of the drive gear for the distributor and for the oil pump down there. So this drive gear meshes with the camshaft. So right here, this is the camshaft. You see if I turn it, that's the camshaft. How do we have compression? That's how. Okay. I was surprised we don't have the head on, but I already have a compression. That's cool. Anyway, so the camshaft turns this gear. Actually, it turns it counterclockwise. That's how it goes. This shaft with the slot underneath engages with the oil pump on the bottom, and this slot here engages with the distributor, with the bottom of the distributor shaft. And that's how the distributor and the oil pump are turned. And so this gear spins all the time inside that bushing down there. So this is its bearing surface, but it also requires some thrust, right? And the thrust is here and there, rides on that bushing, and the top end rides on this surface here of the distributor pedestal. So when the pedestal is installed, the distance between this surface and that bushing needs to be exactly this distance, plus a little bit of end play, of course, which I believe needs to be 3 tau. But how do we measure that? When the distributor pedestal is installed like that, how do we measure that space? We don't want that space to be too much, because there's going to be a lot of end play and there's going to be vibrations, but we don't want it also to be tighter than what the width of the gear is. It's going to put preload on it, right? So let's in the first place drop it down, and now you see it went down, but the slot at the bottom of the shaft is not engaged with the oil pump still. So we're gonna start turning the engine now and keep pressure on this gear, and eventually, since it's turning and the oil pump is not, they're gonna match at some point. Okay, like I'm gonna take this out. I keep it here just to prevent garbage from going in, but you know, anyway, there you go. Now the gear went all the way in, and if we put the pedestal down, I'm pretty sure with a magnet we can, there you go, I can feel the end play. So I'm pretty sure with a magnet we can lift it up and down, but how do we measure that? Let me try. I know there's a procedure in the manual that shows you how to measure this with filler gauges, but I'm really trying to avoid the use of filler gauges. So I want to see if I put a magnet on the gear, come on, if I can actually make it move up and down, which I can. And you know what? I'm gonna try it this time this way. So normally the procedure, how we've done it so far, is as per the manual. You take this gear out, you put a washer here with a known thickness, like this for example. You measure how thick the washer is and make sure, of course, it is nice and flat washer and there's no damages on it and all that. And then you drop the gear down. Again, locate exactly where it needs to go. Come on. Oh, looks like it already engaged with the oil pump. I'm gonna try it again. I'm gonna turn it a little bit. Yeah, it was engaged. Okay, I'm gonna make sure it is engaged though. There you go. So now it is engaged, but we have that washer there that lifts it higher than what it is supposed to be. So now if we put the pedestal, it's not going to be able to go all the way down. Now it's going to step on the gear and the washer, and now there's a gap here because it doesn't go all the way down. So now if we take a filler gauge here and measure this gap, so let's say just for the sake of this video, the washer is 50 thousandths. Let's just imagine for a second. And then we measure this gap here, and this gap is, say, 48 thou. So this means that if we remove the washer, we need to go 48 thousandths down with the pedestal to close this gap, but then there's going to be 2 extra thou, so that's our end play. The thickness of the washer minus the width of this gap. But that involves filler gauges, and like I like to say, I don't like filler gauges. It is always iffy, the measurement. So I'm trying to figure out a different way here, and I think I came up with something. If we take everything apart again, and look how strong this magnet is, I can play with this end play as I want to. Where's my washer? We're going to remove it so we don't forget it there. And we're going to drop everything back down again. Let's engage the gear. There you go. The gear is engaged. So let me just put 2 bolts here quickly. I know there's studs here and nuts, not bolts. But now just for this procedure, I'm putting 2 short bolts there. Like when you do the filler gauges, how do you put these bolts on and make sure that the pedestal is equally tight on both sides, you know? It's tricky. Here we can put it surface to surface. So, do we still have end play? Yes. So you see the magnet is inside the hole of the gear, so it wouldn't be in our way if we take a socket and just drop it down. So now our socket goes up and down with the gear. So we just need to measure this. And to make it easier, I'm just gonna drop this washer here. And I'm gonna put our dial gauge. Try to make it as vertical as possible. Okay, nothing is touching. So let's see now. 8. Wow. Or 8, but it goes down to 1 somehow. Okay. 8 or 7. Okay, it goes 1 to 8. That's huge, and if we add the gasket, that's gonna end up to be 10. Let me go and check how much it needs to be. So here is the procedure in the manual. It's explained. You see, washer thickness would be, for example, 75 thou, measured gap 74 thou. This means that the end float is 0,1, and gaskets required to the value of 4 thou to get to a 5 thou allowance that they recommend. Well, we have 8 already, so plus the gasket, we're gonna end up with 10 or 12 thou, which is a problem. So let me see something here. Well, you know what? I'm curious to see if the method with the filler gauges is going to show something different. I wonder why that is, because the bushing doesn't seem to be worn, the gear doesn't seem to be worn, so I don't know why that is. But anyway, let's try it. Let's measure this washer. 71.5. Come on. Okay, now it is down. Put the pedestal. So here, this is what I'm saying. If I tighten one more than the other, that's gonna tilt it, but okay, very gently. Let's grab filler gauges. Okay, that fits. And it is kind of tight. Okay, let's see how much that is. We can actually, there's only 3 leaves, so we can calculate them. 21, 22, and 23, that's 66, right? 66. And we had 71.5 minus 66, that's 5.5, according to this measurement. 5.5. It's still too big, but you see it is 3 thou different. Okay, I'm gonna do the other method again, but that's kind of like nice and smooth everywhere. Oh, okay, so that shows 5, which is still too big, but it actually confirms pretty well the other method, doesn't it? Okay, so something with my setup the first time was not right, but still 5 thou is too much, because we need 5 thou with a gasket. Here we don't even have a gasket yet. So we have 2 options here. One is to not use a gasket at all, just put some ultra black there, and I'm sure that when we tighten the bolts, it's gonna squeeze out, and whatever is in low spots and scratches of the metal, microscopic scratches, only that is gonna remain filled. And even if it adds a little bit, it's gonna be maybe like 5/10 or even less. So we're still gonna be within tolerance. So that's what I think I'm gonna do, because the other option is to take this pedestal out and machine a little bit from this surface here. So if we take down maybe 3 thou out of that surface on the lathe, that's going to allow it to drop a little bit lower, and then adding a gasket is going to raise it back again to 5 thou end play. But I think that's where we're going to leave it. I'm just going to go without gasket there. And I'm glad that I found this method actually, because it is much easier to do, and I trust it. Even though the filler gauges worked the same way, it turns out it's pretty accurate as well. I think from now onward, that's how I'm gonna do it. Right, well, I think we made pretty good progress today, thanks to David. So I barely touched the engine. I worked over there on the rocker shaft while he finished assembling. This is, to be honest, these are the annoying parts where you have to put gasket maker and you have to, pretty boring, so I appreciate David doing that for me. Thanks, David. So I'm really hoping that in the next few days we're gonna get the head back from the machine shop, because it is almost Christmas and I'm pretty sure that they're gonna close after that. But they told me that they were gonna do it before Christmas, so I hope we're gonna get the head so we can start assembling that as well. And shortly after that, we're gonna be able to put the engine in the car. Well, we still have to do some stuff on the actual car actually. I just got some rubber that I ordered. The insulators for the rear springs, the bushings for the rear shocks, and the boots for the steering rack. And I have to rebuild the front hubs, and with that we can put the car back on the floor, because right now it's in the air for the last month or so. I don't know if I'm gonna film a lot of that. Maybe I'm gonna film some of it. I'm pretty sure the steering rack boots are gonna be interesting for you to see. A lot of swearing there. But I have a tool that Eugene gave me, so that might be useful. We'll see. That's gonna make a good video. And yeah, but for the engine, we're gonna put it on pause for a while until we get the head back, and we're gonna make a video or two about the actual car. Anyway, that's gonna be everything for today though. So I appreciate you guys watching, commenting, subscribing, sharing and supporting the channel. Stay tuned for more videos on this car and maybe a little bit of GT6. I'm thinking of working a little bit on my own car again. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you guys. Bye.